Yay. There's a thumbs up already. How cool. So good morning. Nobody's here yet, but that's okay. You may join me, you may not. Today I want to talk about a request by one of you around my cosmic dreams that were part of my awakening experience. Hey John Beanie, I was expecting you, to be honest, because this shares for you, really. I'll tell the story, really. I moved to Vancouver when I was 19 for university, and probably within the first 2 weeks of moving, which was right on the west coast, like I said, about Rec Beach, which was on campus, on the UBC campus, and I lived in randomly the grad building. I didn't get placed with like first years for some reason. I got placed with these women who were doing like masters and postgraduates and stuff, so I was with more like mature students. So anyway, I move in to this, but it was pretty sweet because it was more like an apartment, so I was living with like 4 other girls rather than like a dormitory, and I had my own bedroom as well, which was sweet. And I'm living on the 16th floor of a building, and if you know Vancouver, then UBC is on the coast. It's right on the west like coast of the city itself. And I was on the 16th floor, so I had this incredible view. And one of the earliest things that happened to me within that first couple weeks was having this dream that I call a kind of cosmic dream. Obviously, it's imprinted on me, right? Like some of my early childhood dreams imprinted on me as well, which make more sense as our story unfolds. And the dream that I had was simply me standing on a building rooftop, and I had my hands out like this, and I was facing my sister. And I had been living with my sister in Vancouver briefly, because she was in Vancouver but moving back to Ontario when I moved, so we had a bit of a crossover. And so I'm standing on the building, and a massive green, like emerald green kind of light came from the sky and then came down and hit me in the heart, and all it did was like pull me up, and then it took me around the world. And what followed was a series of events after that dream over, you could say, that year that I was in Vancouver, that then led me to listening to my intuition after having the insight about the paradigm shift to go travel, because I'd always had the feeling but was following the rules, going to university, following my acting career, like all this stuff that I took on. And the intuition, I was sitting at having dinner with a friend, and my intuition, we talked about traveling, and I just heard go. And because of that cosmic dream, and because another vivid, I would call it an awakening experience, was just staring at a sunset. Really simple moments, right? I was staring at a sunset, and in a moment I just started like crying. And it was this profound moment of recognition, of knowing that I was one with that beauty, with that exquisite radiance. I was just overwhelmed with, yeah, like the magnificence and the beauty of this planet, of the sun, and of how it shimmered on the, like, words fail to describe what the experience actually felt like. And then a whole bunch of little like shifts, and I said the paradigm shift, and then following the intuition, and I bought a one-way ticket. I got all my like visa stuff lined up and landed in England. And from within that awareness, a lot of the kind of previous life cycle, like early 20s to up to late 20s, that whole cycle was me learning about patterns, because I ended up in a toxic pattern in a relationship, which has come to completion. But out of those toxic patterns is when I moved in. So that was a transformational cycle, and then I moved into the yoga journey, because when I started to read yoga texts, because my life was so far, I was so depressed and in suffering patterns and lost and alienated, but I had this nugget. I was journaling a lot, and I was like feeling a lot. I talk about these like moments of breakdown a lot in Liverpool, of like just literally like being waved with emotion, and then just like almost falling to my knees like in the middle of the street and just like crying and wondering why nobody was like even looking at me or noticing that this girl is crying on the street, and just feeling so like broken by the world, right? And at the same time trying so hard to fit in, trying so hard to like make money and like be positive, and because I was already doing the Louise Hay stuff. So all throughout the toxic patterns, I was still practicing positive thought, practicing like affirmation. And then obviously none of it was really working, so then the yoga practice came in, and it was something really tangible, right? The discipline of yoga as a practice, so pranayama and meditation and doing the asanas. And because my previous dance background, I had that physical awareness, which the yoga teacher that I met when I was at that next turning point around 26 was like that reflection of like, this is a lifeline, this is a path for you. And after the kind of resistance and the toxic patterning of my acting life cycle and performance and stuff, the yoga was like this deeper, like I could drop in and it could be easy for me. And it was like opportunities just sort of opened up, and instead of resisting them, I just walked through them. So I started teaching yoga full time, and then all of these really grace sort of opportunities kept unfolding as I continued to follow the intuition. And then I started writing again. And then in 2016 is when the like completion of, so my earliest cosmic dream, it was in 2016 when I hosted my personal first yoga retreat in Morocco. And I was with a very like sort of connected woman in my life. We supported each other and have like shared very profound experiences, including this one where so suddenly I like take this leap. I didn't know I had the manuscript and things lined up. I didn't know I was going to write the book in Bali yet, but I knew in my experience that I was taking another leap, because I knew that I had to dissolve a relationship, book a ticket to Bali, and take this leap into the unknown. I could feel it in my body. And again, it goes against all of the practicalities in my life. I just knew I had to go. So I'd made that decision, and literally within 24 hours, I find myself on the rooftop. The yoga shala is a rooftop in Morocco. And my hands are like this, and I'm holding hands with this woman who I suddenly realize is my sister, almost like on a different timeline. And part of our journeying together was her being like this older sister figure of like affirming my path and like affirming like, you're cool, you're good to go, like that kind of energy. And it just so happened that she quite resembles my sister on some level. And also she has the exact same birthday. So it was a very, and then I got the charge. So there was this moment, like we're holding hands, and I'm suddenly like thrown over, just being like, oh my God, this is it. I've arrived. Like the heart, the green ray that opened me up to this intuition, which was like guiding me to the new paradigm or the new shift. It was like I'd arrived at that moment in time, that timeline. And then that was 2016 at the beginning. And then really you guys are sort of joining me of the momentum of that last leap and this next transformational cycle, this next level where, you know, I've been doing the yoga and that's still a huge part of the fundamentals of my practice. And yet speaking and sharing the journey and kind of unfolding a deeper, more harmonious, more expanded way of being on the planet. The paradigm shift is us reprogramming how we relate to ourselves and one another on this planet. And it's happened, right? It just through the inner work and following the intuition and trusting and flowing, it's now taken on a new, you know, more expanded resonance. And the book is like this foundation. It's like it's this new way of being, right? This way of relating with one another that's more connected to the heart field, so that we can be more present with one another, heal the disparity of disconnection, which we understand has been kind of layering and accumulating over ages, and then unify and congregate in different tribes like we're doing here, via our own unique frequencies, right? Because we'll only start to really attract and vibrate the frequencies that we're vibrating from within. And then essentially those new connections, which are happening all over the world, are creating the new grid systems. They're creating the new operation systems. And a lot of it really is in the astral and invisible realms still. And so how we see things coming to manifestation is, there's always like a polarity of our own patience, clearly, and I can reflect that back because you understand now that this was like a 15, so that was in, you know, 2001 or 2002 that those dreams happened. And really between then and me taking that leap and then not even knowing and eventually writing the book, and here I am today where it's like, thank you, yes, this is the thing, this is what I was literally just about to say, John, is like, from those moments of that dream to like here I am, it was like mostly just me going, ah, like I was just repeating patterns everywhere and feeling like not knowing how to fit in and breaking down and breaking through and breaking down and breaking through. And then with the discipline of the yoga, and this is why I'm about to create the Spirituality Simplified and why I've written the book, is that I had to get clear. I had to get disciplined in my energy field. And yoga and meditation as an energy practice and the discipline of it, and that's undeniable, which is why there's so much uniqueness, but at the same time there is a rooted practicality in just our ability to sit and be, you know, like the simplicity of meditation is a very, very, very powerful practice. So that discipline over the last 10 years is what's helped me kind of integrate and make sense of my entire life. And then once that was anchored in, it was like expand out to connect to what I call like the cosmic origin I, like, but it's not new, but expand out to connect to some of the cosmic origins, to understand not just our earthly place, but a galactic center from within ourselves. And then that can continue how we expand that out. And you can say that is connected to those early cosmic dreams. It was like, so from a very early age, there was a visceral experience in my beingness of connection to the cosmos, and because of that green light and the fact of I was on Earth and I had to kind of do this whole cycle. I'm aware that we have patterns within patterns within patterns, and the less we resist them and simply expand out and observe and expand out and observe and expand out and observe, and at the same time hold space for the clearings, or I call them just transformations. Anytime we have a profound emotional upheaval reaction and we can simply hold space, you can notice the attack and divisive thoughts moving through your mental space. You just don't have to fixate on them. You don't need to buy into them. You expand further than that and observe the complex of the system. Observe the mind and connection to your emotions. And breathe. And when you can sit there, that's often when you start to feel the waves. So after anger, you might feel a wave of sadness. And then after, you know, and then you get these waves of emotion. And within your light of awareness, when you start observing that kind of as a complex, then you start to experience the transformational aspect of our beingness in these bodies. My understanding, my intuitive understanding of alchemy in form. And then that as a process, as a way of being, helps us to relate with people in a more harmonious level. And and again, it's very radical. It's quite, oh, we've forgotten this stuff. And yet what I know is that this great awakening is ushering an acceleration. And so people, it's like this weird language, but people's lids are popping off. Like, the stuff we've been in denial, our underlying anxieties, and our we're just starting to become more and more aware more and more quickly, because we're all ramping up, because more and more, I like using technical expressions, but like more people are coming online, right? Like what's really happening here? What are we really doing? And how can we get clear? And how can we be effective channels for positive change? And the more we clear that, the more we can clearly hold a vision of a lighter world, of a more harmonious world, of a better feeling world. And I say this, it's not about everybody getting along and singing kumbaya. It's not, we're not necessarily all wanting to create the exact same world, but what I believe to be true, what I feel when I just see it in light grids, is like there's these massive bubbles, right? And it wouldn't surprise me that they're all kind of centered around different chakra points on the earth. So there's like these bubbles of light that are being expanded and magnetized. And then within these different bubbles are different, slightly different energetic frequencies as collective bodies of frequency, of consciousness, of vibration. And so these bubbles of light are authentic earth grid codes. So this isn't necessarily stuff that we're seeing in any way on a manifested level just yet, but there's stuff percolating from within us in a very profound way that highlights us to stuff like this, like what we're talking about, which is why we can tune into some pretty out there stuff and just somehow miraculously it resonates, because we're coming online to it. The awakening is permeating our consciousness field, whether we like it or not, or whether we're conscious of it or not. But the deeper we ground in, the more we can keep expanding them, integrating the actual bigger light bubbles. And then so what's happening as these light bubbles are getting bigger and more magnetized is that they're bringing more people online. So then, and then I see these light crosses, like airplane pathways on a map, right? Like you're getting these like grid lines, but they're light grid lines that are connecting between the big bubbles. And that's a kind of global communication system, but not in any physicalized way just yet. Now we have physical manifestations on the planet which are there as like potential disruptors, but this is the whole point of the paradigm shift. It's like cosmic. It's beyond any 3D matrix like illusion of separation. It's like so beyond that like the more you do the work, you just keep anchoring it in, because like any story of dark forces illusion, again, separation or fear on that level, they're just like leaving everywhere, and all the tactics are just sort of like flailing, which is why we're seeing more manifestation of like great darkness. It's the great dark before the dawn. More chaos, corruption, fear, like beyond corruption being but like that is all the like the worst of the worst all being like spewed out of the monster before it just vacates the realm completely, before it vacates simply through vibrational frequency. It just can't hold itself on the earth's grid anymore, because the light codes are actually becoming more dominant. We're just not necessarily seeing manifest, but that's the next phase. This is the next beginning of the birthing of the next phase, which is like another, if you look at it in another timeline cycle, it's like the 60s and 70s. It's that flower power kind of like hippie love movement. And yet all of these years later, it's a little bit more anchored and integrated. So with Capricorn, like, and Cancer now, we're now coming home and then pioneering the movement with more stability, with more awareness. All the gifts and tools that we seeded in the 60s now are like being reborn in the next generation to carry on the mission of upliftment on the planet. John, you wrote some notes. Let me have a look. Yeah. Always, the doubts will always creep in until they're just not creeping in anymore. That person, if you met the version of you 10 years in the past, what would the now version of you say to yourself? I just keep hearing, keep going, keep believing. And oh my God, do you know what you're making me think? Is infinity loop and like multidimensionality and timeline, because I'm just realizing I was there. I was always there. That was how I survived. Like, in my experience, even though people would judge it and be like, whatever, the depth of my own pain along the way, it was me now being like, keep going. You're doing great. When I'd get down into those deep storms and just be like, why am I here? Like, you know those ones where they're just like, and like letting go and having these spiritual insights and be like, what's happening? Why doesn't anyone understand? Why is everyone just blind? And like, your totality is always with you. We just get caught up and are kind of trained to get caught up in the illusion of life. You know, the more we merge with the intuition, we realize that our infinite self is always there, and it's up to us to always listen. You know, and I guess maybe that's part of the journey for me, is that maybe any of us that really decide to take those leaps, it's because we know. And that's been something really relevant in chats and stuff like that, is people coming online are like, they're very aware of the sudden, like, the knowing. Like, there's just this knowing. And I'm like, yeah, because it's the infinite intelligent self. It's the infinite one that we're all coming online to, recognizing it in one another, and then being like, and then realizing that we all have these potent, miraculous gifts and intuitive abilities. And because we've all been here and done this before, and like, we're aware of different things, we're like, hey guys, don't be afraid. We got this. Like, I know we're taught that all this intuitive, invisible stuff and whatever, that it's wrong or it's bad or it's shameful and that you're not enough and you're not good enough and you're not worthy. I know that that's sort of systematically programmed into us. But then there's all this crisis and chaos, and then deeper in, it's like, like, you're gonna heal. We're gonna uplift. We're gonna rise. We're gonna rise above all of the intensity. And there was a really profound vision I had back in August, and it was just, and it was a trigger, and then I dropped into meditation, and it was just like, boom. And then it was one of those vision meditations, which is like visceral, and I'm suddenly on like a boogie board, and it was a monumental wave, and it was just like, to the point of like, fuck, I'm gonna come off this thing, and I'm in meditation, right? But just totally one with this vision, like, yeah, where you feel it in your body, and then I could hear the intuition saying, just hold on, just hold on. So I'm like, and I feel like this is a little bit the energies right now, like, just hold on. We're gonna get there, you know, and we're digging in deep, and we're riding really fast. We're riding through these cycles and patterns and shape-shifting and uplifting and encouraging one another, and things are moving, and people are cleaning the oceans, and people are going zero waste, and, you know, like, with everything is moving and accelerating and happening fast, and our ability to ground it in and keep expanding it out is super duper powerful. So in the meditation, it was just like, just keep riding that wave, and eventually you arrive. And so that's what's really carrying me through the energies right now, is like, just hold on, just keep going. And I know that there's going to be okay. And now, and there's moments like that. And then there's moments of, but more increasingly, there's like okay, I'm settling into the new speeds. I'm settling into the new rhythms. I'm settling into the new flows. So even though there is an up leveling, once we integrate more and more in our vessel and our bodies become better equipped to deal with the new frequency of energy. So there's always this sort of recycling effect, hence our ability to relax more and really let those energies move through us. If you're tired, sleep. If you're guided to meditate, meditate. If you're guided to write a song, write a song. If you're guided to dance or move, move. If you're guided to talk to somebody, talk to them. If you're guided to reach out to somebody, reach out to them. It's a real powerful and potent time for us to just be getting over ourselves and really stepping into what these little inner nudgings are asking of us. Follow your heart. Wake up. My answer would be like, wake up, child, wake up. It's time to follow your heart. Oh, you're great. Oh, give myself a massive hug. And that's what you're doing now. That's what you're doing now with yourself. And you are. That's it. We're awakening to our heart and accepting that there's contrast and that like there's I'm noticing it anyway. I mean I believe in the up leveling, but I also believe in the perpetual recycling and the expansion and contraction, that movement and perpetual motion. So there's always these sort of paradoxes where we don't want to get attached to any one state either. Hence, how this transformational stuff works is that we just get better at like riding out the downturns, riding out the low points, riding out the sleepy days, riding out the like eaty days, riding out whatever. You just ride those out, just like you ride out the like, oh, excitement, oh, want to do everything everywhere, you know what I mean? Like that energy is not like understanding that manifestation is this in not manifestation is never going to be just the one polarity, and that helps us love and forgive the darkness. That helps us to engage with and expand with the depth of our emotional field, i.e. the shitty stuff, you know, rather than living in these sort of secretive patterns of denial and like always trying to deflect and avoid just being the feeling presence that we are. And you know, it's a never-ending journey. It's a never-ending learning. Yeah. Yeah, so that's a nice one. Thank you so much, John, for asking about the cosmic dreams, because that's you know, a fairly kind of overview of the kind of higher dimensional aspect of the life journey that I've lived, and then been kind of birthing into the world, and I'll just, you know, and I'll continue to. It's too much fun, and also ease is so beautiful that regardless of what the circumstances are shape-shifting into from one moment to the next, it's the inner sort of peaceful dwelling which becomes very rewarding, very kind of luxurious, because there's no attachment to anything in essence when we hang out there more. So we get to watch reality more as like a moving picture, and be aware of like bouncing into contrast, but then and then dealing with the shadow stuff as and when. But then the lighter you get within it, you can just keep choosing the light feelings and not be bound to any of the chains of the past, which is the illusion of past creation and or our split selves, any aspect of self that we've put outside of us, which even could be, you know, this idea of cosmic reality. But then to me, cosmic reality is just a reflection of our inner vastness of creation. And there again, here as beings, we're tuning into a depth within us, which is expanding our perspective of what's out there. Hence why this age of technology, information, and transformation is so like destabilizing for us, because we are on every level like upgrading. having a system. I mean, think about a Mac computer. I'm pretty sure, or any computer, it doesn't have to be Mac, but like, whenever there's like a system upgrade thingy, I'm pretty sure the computer has to like shut down. It has to go off grid and like hit it, like connect wires and stuff, and then reboot the system. So as bodies, and on a planetary level, there's gonna be some some times where we have to go offline, times where we might have to just shut down for a little bit and then reboot, upgrade, right? And that's where, again, everything around us is a reflection of our consciousness. We could look at computer systems and literally see them as a reflection of how we work as operating systems, as a wiring. Like, so we vibrate from the central channel, and then our brain acts as like a sort of transmitter to pick up on different frequencies in the collective, which is a universal, cosmic, solar, galactic. There's all these different layers of the consciousness from within our own like field, and as transmitters we can like pick up on them and then channel them through our own radio dial, right? Like, we could put it out there, so we then become channels of creation, rather than all like the slaves beholden to a kind of centralized dominant structure that clearly served the planet for a certain amount of time in an agreed contractual aspect of evolution on a timeline of linearity. So this is still part of all of our chosen, desired, experiential soul evolution and growth. So we're experiencing these bodies going from one, well, a 3 density or third density, or just a one perspective that vibrates on a certain level, and we're endeavoring to move up a couple, we're kind of jumping up, we're doing a quantum leap. So that's a physical experience that we are having, but again, it's putting us online. It's like activating our cells, it's transforming our DNA, so we're more aware, we're more active, we're more present, we're more like working with the physical reality so we can keep shapeshifting it. We have to just let go of our attachment to how we think it's meant to work out. And again, that's kind of paradoxical, but again, the more broader we become, the better we can contain the duality and the paradox, because we merge with it. Hence, we dissolve resistance, because we kind of align with the unity, the aligned self, which is why we have to be quite bold and courageous, because our alignment doesn't necessarily look like everybody else's, of course. And I think that's also next level, next wave of teachings and awakenings for people, is more and more people coming online, and more different kind of activity and frequencies helping to wake up even more and more. And the more we let go of, again, trying to micromanage our own lives, it does become easier. We just want to continue to let go of the control. So we're living from our hearts, and it's a beautiful thing. And I think we're just going to keep seeing more and more of these types of movements to align ourselves with, and eventually to congregate with more in person and on online here, right? Good morning, good people. Wow, I've never caught you live. 1:30 a.m. in Cleveland, USA. Welcome. It's been a good share. Feeling a lot of like positive heart activity. I think there's just been, for me personally, just a real up level, like a lot more contained feeling of love. And you guys are a huge part of that. Like, having this community here has been incredibly supportive, at just the kind of perfect time of not even realizing it, but needing a kind of reflection. Whoop whoop. Of like minds, right? Just suddenly going, like, we're here. And again, in a powerful way, I'm just like, but of course, Molly, MJ, you always knew that. Like, you always knew they were there. We've been one with an aspect. And this is why, so I'll touch into like the twin flame share as well. But this is why I don't necessarily align completely with like this just twin flame, because I'm like, we're all we're all one another's flames. We're all aspects of self. We're all one with one another. And so if we get too attached to it being one other in completion, then we're perhaps still maybe projecting stuff. So and yet at the same time, I do align with so much of the language in the community, because I understand that we have the same understanding of union is within the self, and that in fact we all have these divine, on a manifested earthly level, we do all have these divine unions, these divine partnerships, that once more and more of these unified sovereign beings awaken to that self, they then align with unified counterparts. Then that magnetizes and expands the field of a unified vision, which expands it out and expands it out and expands it out. So we continue to really, it's all just amplifying. And I feel, if anything, again, with the polarity, there's extremes, but okay, I think I'm gonna shoot off soon because my battery is running low. Cheers, Claudia! But then it'll be ready for you to watch live as well, and you can just shoot any comments down there and add questions. But good morning. Oh, good early morning. I wake up. I'm up at very random hours. Yeah, it's just waves. It's just grounding into the waves, grounding into the emotions, giving ourselves time, being responsible, taking time when we need to. There's no quick fixes to this stuff. It's just trust, faith, riding out the waves, being present with ourselves, with people, being as compassionate and forgiving as we can. Compassionate, forgiving, and again, all this words, all this stuff itself, at the end of the day, and I talk about it in the book, like, all of it loops back to the self. Like, at the end of it, I can forgive everybody, and I still have to just forgive myself, and knowing I've created it on some level for my own expansion. And that everybody else gets to, I still love you, Claudia. Everybody else gets to be let off, right? We can let everybody else off the hook and realize we've all got work to do. But it's a beautiful process. It's beautiful work to be doing when we can really drop into it and understand how it works and what it is and why it's important for us to stay true to ourselves and for us to feel what we feel and for us to step away from energies that don't feel right, that don't align with us for this present moment, and knowing that we're all eternally connected, you know, and eternally one. Thank you, John. I know, and I'm so blissed out that I'm just enjoying it, you know? I'm enjoying the ride immensely, and accepting of it all, like in the rise and fall, and I just love you guys and appreciate you so much. And welcome back from Vancouver, dude. I'm off to Bali in a week. Woo woo! So, and I'm looking forward to updating you guys there. I'll be working on Spirituality Simplified. You can pre-order it, and I'll share some like pre-sharing stuff. So like if you pre-order now, I'll probably like give you little tuck-ins before it actually launches. And I think that's it, you guys. I'm looking forward to having some space in Bali for sure. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for all your donations as well. John, appreciate it. We've gotten up to almost 1,500 pounds, which is really good. Really, really, really good. The people of Lombok are so grateful. And I'm so looking forward to kind of sharing that gratitude with you guys when I get there and I can make some videos. So have a wonderful Sunday, everybody. And I can't wait to see you again. And just have lots of peaceful, resty vibes. And give yourself a nice love hug. Here's a virtual hug. Love heart. Vibration, you guys. Have an awesome day. Reach out if you need to. Book a session if you need to. All of that you can do on altalove.com. Love you guys. Peace out.